saying that men don't need women to have babies anymore. You ain't just say what I just said, right? They're saying that they made a way for a man not to need a woman to have a baby anymore. And you don't believe me, right?
Without a woman's DNA. American scientists have created human embryos by putting DNA from skin into a donor egg. This new egg has just 23 chromosomes from the skin
What are y'all doing?
And that can be fertilized by IVF with the 23 chromosomes.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. You guys know what we like to do here, man. We break down scary and creepy videos that's gonna make us question everything. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Let's seek the truth.
Gas station towns and cities set up.
This might actually be a fake town / city set up by the elite. Why would there be cars parked at the gas pump and they have dust on them? So they've been there a while and nobody's around. As always, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay weird.
You shouldn't go
That's
through
very
life any
weird.
longer without knowing this. There was a 9-foot great white shark back in 2003 that was tagged by scientists. Just a couple of months after this, the tag was found by a beach 2.5 miles from where the shark was originally tagged. When they pulled the data from the tag, it showed that the great white abruptly dove to depths of 2,000 feet and lower, which means something else swallowed that 9-foot shark whole and went down to the bottom of the ocean. There was a man who hired his neighbor to impregnate his wife and then sued him after 72 failed attempts. He paid $2,500 for his neighbor. Okay. Tom Cruise has been blacklisted from buying a Bugatti. He's actually apparently been banned since 2006 because on the red carpet, he struggled to open the passenger side door in front of cameras, and that moment was everywhere. So now he's on a do not sell list for the entire company. That's kind of hilarious. Chris Hansen was on a podcast a couple of months ago and was asked the question, have you ever caught a female predator? And he said never.
Hey everybody, so we've got airports shutting down, pilots reporting mysterious glowing objects and radar signals vanishing into thin air. This is all happening in Turkey. They've been experiencing some bizarre UAP encounters lately. So check this out. Flights at Sabiha Gökçen Airport, sorry if I butchered that, in Istanbul were disrupted due to pilots reporting unidentified objects on their radar systems. These anomalies even triggered collision avoidance warnings, prompting extensive but inconclusive searches by authorities. Also, in a separate incident, a pilot near Gaziantep Airport, again, sorry if I butchered it, spotted a bright glowing object in the sky that wasn't visible on the radar. This sighting led to a temporary shutdown of the whole airport and a massive search operation, but the object vanished without a trace. So, while some are speculating these events obviously could be due to drone activity or atmospheric phenomena, no definitive explanations have been provided as of yet, and authorities continue to investigate to ensure aviation safety. Stay tuned for any updates. If I get some, I'll let you know.
So some problems going on around the Turkey airport. I've been seeing a lot more UAP videos, man, on TikTok, bro. So I don't know what it's about 2025, man. We see a whole lot of alien activity there, bro. Or if they unconfirmed it, man. We're going to dive deep into that rabbit hole one day. We got lizard people and the catacombs? Of course it's the Matrix. Just being blind to it. Got underground cities now too? Or is that connected to the catacombs?
Okay, everybody's noticing that 3I Atlas, the new interstellar comet, it doesn't have a tail. There is a reason, and here's why. So between October 1st and the 7th, the European Space Agency, which is the footage you're seeing here, its ExoMars and Mars Express orbiters tracked it from about 30 million kilometers away. That fuzzy glow that you see, that's the coma, which is gas and dust boiling off the object's icy surface. But there's no visible tail, obviously, at least in a traditional sense, because it's still too far from the sun for solar radiation to push out material off the comet. As 3I Atlas moves closer to the sun, and it's supposed to hit its nearest point on October 29th, heat and solar wind should technically ignite a full tail, which they're saying will stretch millions of kilometers, which is crazy. If the nucleus survives that close pass, then we'll finally see that whole thing light up. 3I Atlas is only the third interstellar comet that's ever been found, and it might be older than our solar system itself, which is mind-blowing. And here's a fun little tidbit. Even capturing this faint blur was like spotting a phone on the moon. That's how dim it was. So anyway, the next time someone asks, why does this 3I Atlas not have a tail like a traditional comet, tell them it's still waking up. But when it does, we might be watching history form in real time. So it's technically still sleeping, but it's going to wake up.
When was the last time you saw Miley Cyrus? Why do I ask? Because she was featured in a Gucci ad, and she is now completely unrecognizable.
Another one?
If you haven't seen the photo, take a look at this. Who is that in the Gucci ad? Does that look like Miley Cyrus to you? This is not the Miley Cyrus I remember seeing on TV. Do you? What is going on with Miley Cyrus? This is the Miley Cyrus I'm used to seeing, and I'm sure many of you are. Take a look at this side by side. That's the Gucci ad. That's Miley Cyrus. What is going on with Miley Cyrus? So the question needs to be asked. Has Hollywood claimed another celebrity? This is the Miley Cyrus we're all used to seeing. So my question to you is, who is this Miley Cyrus? As I always say in all of my videos, I understand that people age and people can change.
Yeah.
But what is going on with Miley Cyrus? So I guess my question to you is, has Hollywood claimed another celebrity? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, I'd love to hear from you.
New York is facing a serious problem right now. This year, the city has seen a very concerning rise in real-life subway surfing. You heard that right. In fact, just this past weekend, 2 teenage girls were found dead on top of a train at the Marcy Avenue station in Brooklyn. They were only 12 and 13 years old. Problem is, this isn't even the first time this has happened recently. 5 people have died this year alone as a result of similar incidents across the city. And while this has been around for decades, real-life subway surfing has far transcended just being a dangerous game or stunt, because now it's become one of the most deadly social media trends online. In fact, this video is allegedly of one of the girls just days before she died filming one of her stunts. And not only that, but according to New York officials, over 1,800 subway surfing videos have had to be removed from social media in just the first half of 2025. It's even reached the point where police are now deploying drones to try and spot these surfers before they get hurt. Thankfully, this has already led to over 200 rescues. But the question is, how do you even stop something like this before even more lives are taken?
Kris Jenner
Insane.
has reversed her aging process, y'all. Make sure you like and share. Look how she looked, y'all. She reversed her aging. Most likely she went under the knife, right? She showed no scars of it. You know what they be doing in Hollywood, though. I can't say too much. When is the last time she had a baby? How old is her oldest? No babies around, right? Y'all, she literally looked like she about 28, 30. And I'm just trying to figure out how. I need y'all to leave y'all thoughts in the comments on what do you think is really going on? What do you notice? This shit is crazy, fool. This is 2007. This is 2025. She really is pulling off the Benjamin Button. Fool, that don't even look like the same person. I'm not even gonna have you. How do we know these the same people? Do we? Nigga, that's a miracle, fool. Like, even the chest area is different. I understand you can get makeovers on the face. But the chest? What? I need answers. Somebody let me know in the comments.
This world is officially cooked. They're saying that men don't need women to have babies anymore. You ain't just say what I just said, right? They're saying that they made a way for a man not to need a woman to have a baby anymore. And you don't believe me, right? Look at this shit. Listen to this shit right here.
A baby without a woman's DNA. American scientists have created
What are you doing?
human embryos by putting DNA from skin into a donor egg. This new egg has just 23 chromosomes from the skin
What are y'all
cell,
doing?
and that can be fertilized by IVF with the 22 chromosomes from the sperm making a full set.
A lot of y'all gonna jump on here and say the world is just advancing. I'ma say technology keeps finding a way to play with God. Mind you, scientists know, and they've said already that this is unethical. And the embryos that they're making, they're destroying. So what are you doing? If you're destroying embryos, isn't the embryos that you destroy a life? So now I gotta ask myself, what's the end goal? Now ask yourself, is this a good thing or a bad thing? And then after you ask yourself that, ask yourself what would Jesus do? We're in a world where man continues to test his limits. You're not satisfied with anything that you've been blessed with. You have scientists trying to put our consciousness into robots so we can live forever. If we were supposed to live forever, don't you think God would have made that possible? Y'all keep playing. Keep playing, and you're going to find yourself in a wonderful space that you don't want to be in. I'm out.
Hold on, y'all.
Keep
don't
pushing
find
the limit.
colors of the 4 horses of the apocalypse a little concerning? Let's just go through them real quick. We have the white horse. There's the white horse who goes out conquering and to conquer. He has a crown on his head and he has a bow. There's the red horse, and he is coming to take peace from the earth with a sword, and it will be great violence and bloodshed and war. There's a black horse that symbolizes famine and hardship and economic collapse, and he carries a scale. Then there's the pale horse, which is a little green, that symbolizes death, and Hades follows behind it. They're given authority to kill through sword, pestilence, and all these different famines all over the earth. Now, did y'all notice something?
You know what else is under the authority of the crown?
What?
Disney World in Orlando, Florida.
What does that mean? How?
Ron DeSantis was trying to take away their self-governing, because Disney has always been like a self-governing entity within Florida, so they don't pay taxes, the taxes that major businesses and do stuff in Florida do. Like, they started getting into politics. Disney was like, if you're going to get into politics, let's get into politics. But Ron DeSantis lost that battle because it came out that Disney's like, hey, why don't you just read this piece of paper that we have? It says, we are under the Royal Family Clause, which basically means Disney World within Florida is technically owned by the royal family of England.
How?
I don't know how that works either.
I don't know how they did it. They did some sort of exchange. I tried to do a ton of research.
Did they fund it?
They would have had to have given the land to the crown, and now it's protected.
Yeah, they basically said the U.S. cannot tax what is the royal family's.
Why? Why do they own U.S. land? Get out of here! Come on!
Baseball.
That's kind of crazy to think about. I'm gonna have to do some research on that, man. The royal family owns Disney World or Disneyland in Florida? That sounds like cap, bro. But if they do, that's some interesting rabbit hole that I need to go down.
So, the origins might be mine. How? What? Throwing it and hitting a bat? Everything about baseball is very related to the Freemasons. The diamond they play on is in what shape? It's in the same shape of the compass in the Freemason logo. Now, back this. What is the degree of that angle in that diamond? What is it? 33 degrees. Why? Because 33 is the highest level you can go in Freemasonry. No. Remember? The MLB baseball bats, they're 33 inches in length and 33 ounces in weight. Yes, fam. Also, the threads on the baseball itself, there's 33 on each line. Theory was they made it as homage to the Freemasons or whatever ritualistic things they want to get into. What's being talked about right now is how every sport references what god or what deity. What? Remember we were talking about the cowhead is named ball. Baseball. Dude, think about that. Baseball. Basketball, man. Yeah. It might actually be something more than you think.
AI just perfected animation. Now animation studios have finally responded to Sora V2. So people have been using Sora V2 to make new episodes of animation shows, as well as being able to blend real life and animation shows together, as well as shows with 2 different animation styles, such as Hood SpongeBob, real life Gaku getting arrested. Somebody even made their own version of the show, Attack of the Titans, a realistic Michael Jackson stealing fried chicken. And for those who don't know, Michael Jackson is not alive anymore, yet these videos will look more realer than real life. But this is where it gets so much more worse. A lot of people love this because they're able to make their own version of their most favorite shows, where if you make it yourself, it can take literally minutes to do versus studios take over years, because a lot of people love AI art. However, now even more insaner animation studios have finally clapped back to this, as Sora V2 has been using copyrighted characters such as SpongeBob and One Punch Man, and it's very odd that although no studio has made a public statement on this issue yet, as OpenAI has now given studios the option to opt out of their copyrighted image use. Do we need more AI laws?
I think there's something in the water, or there's something going on in the air right now, y'all. Because these type of videos I'm coming across where people are walking and running on all fours like it's normal are insane, y'all. And there is, it's like, what universe am I in? Y'all, there's even a Guinness Book of World Record for this now, man. A Japanese man ran 100 meters on all fours in under 15 seconds. Look at this man getting it on all fours in under 15 seconds, y'all. He was so happy.
What the hell?
You think I'm playing? This man right here specifically has been training his body for this. For the past 300 days, he has been going under an intense regimen, blood, sweat, and tears, just for this moment so he can run on all fours. Y'all check this out.
This is day 300 of walking on all fours every day. Heat was definitely a factor today, but since it's the last episode of season 10, I wanted to get outside and do something fun. I started off with some laps, and I still can't believe how much more smooth this looks and feels. I think I'm really starting to get the hang of it. I've been preparing to transition from running to all fours, so I gave that a try. The preparation I've done seems to have paid off because it went surprisingly well. It's crazy to think that in 2 more months I'll have been doing this for over a year.
Bro, this dude literally runs like Nightcrawler. Have y'all ever seen Nightcrawler on X-Men? That's exactly how he runs. And it doesn't stop there, y'all. There is a man who fully transitioned himself into a Dalmatian because his partner or his wife or his girlfriend lost her Dalmatian. This man bought a full synthetic suit. Now he's living the full life of a Dalmatian. This is crazy, y'all. Yo, let's continue to get it.
People you've never heard of. A boy named Gilbert in 1914 threw a tennis ball that got stuck way up in an archway of the Lincoln Cathedral. Nobody knew it was there until that same boy's nephew wrote a letter to the cathedral staff jokingly asking for it back 90 years later in 2005. Margaret from Kentucky became addicted to bee stings after using them to relieve her arthritis pain, eventually escalating to 15 stings a day and over 50,000 in total. This Malaysian man, nicknamed the Magnetic Man, had a seemingly magnetic body that attracted metallic objects. His sons and grandchildren also had this trait, which made him think it was hereditary. This other Malaysian man has the world's most powerful teeth, and this is him using those teeth to pull a 300-ton train over 10 feet. The Hawaiian singer Israel Kamakawiwo'ole's famous version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow was recorded in 1 take. He called a local studio in Hawaii at 3 in the morning and begged them to let him in because he said he needed to record something immediately.
This father who murdered his 2 teenage daughters because they started dating finally had his first interview in prison and denied everything and said it was all a conspiracy. I went over this case and his recent interview on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. On New Year's in 2008, 18-year-old Sarah Saeed used her last breath to call police and let them know that her dad had just shot her and she was dying. Beside her was her deceased older sister Amina, who was also shot by their father. But this didn't just happen out of nowhere. Growing up, these 2 girls endured a lot of abuse from their father. When they were 7 and 8 years old, they told their mother that their father was essaying them. But eventually nothing happened and the case got dropped. Things only got worse as they got older. Their father became more controlling and perverted. Their father would follow them and take videos of them everywhere they went, especially when they went to work. At one point, he took Amina to Egypt to try to marry her off to an older man, but luckily that didn't go through. But one day, he lost it when he found out that his daughters were dating and he threatened to take their lives. At this point, the girls were fed up, terrified, and decided to run away with their mother. But taking their mother with them wasn't the best decision because eventually Patricia wanted to go back to Yasser. She then promised Amina and Sarah that nothing would happen if they returned home, but that wasn't the case. The girls were convinced that their father was going to eventually take their lives, so they left a lot of evidence, including emails and letters to teachers about what was going on at home. When they went home, their father offered to take them out to talk and resolve things, but on January 1st, 2008, he shot them multiple times while they sat in the back of his taxi. Yasser fled for 12 years, but now that he's been in prison for 4 years, he still denies taking his daughter's lives. Throughout this recent interview, he gets frustrated and blames the FBI wife for pinning the murders on him and says all the evidence against him isn't true.
Here's some fun facts you may have not wanted to know. But after this video, you'll know. So if you've heard somebody say honey never goes bad, it doesn't. Because there's not enough water in the honey for microorganisms to live on. So that honey you may have thrown away because it's been sitting in your cabinet for, what, 3 years? It was good. On to the next.
Wow.
Ants go to war. Similar to humans, and they actually have some crazy strategies. For example, they'll put the weak ones in the front to protect the strong ones in the back. This one is crazy. These conjoined twin sisters actually share a brain. But not only that, they can hear each other's thoughts, and they can see out of each other's eyes. I've seen this one before, and it's a no for me. I have stage fright. So this is called a public semi-transparent toilet. You cannot see in, but you can see out. No. On to the next.
No.
Sunflowers can clean up radioactive waste. Sunflowers are good at eating up pollutants, especially radioactive metal contaminants. And they store all the waste in their stems. In the Antarctic, there are no spiders. That is all. So when Ashton Kutcher was 13 years old, he tried to commit suicide by jumping off a hospital balcony, all because he wanted to save his brother and donate his heart. For all my duck-feeding people, don't feed them bread. It fills up their stomach and they end up getting no nutrients from the bread anyways. And the bread also causes malnourishment. So when lions get injured, they can have mane loss. So when a lion sees a male with a long mane, they avoid fighting with him because they think he is stronger at combat. That's all, folks.
I think the fact that got to me was that there's a bathroom where you can see outside but people can't see you. Would you guys be brave enough to use that one? That's a no for me. I can't do that, bro. I should say stage right. I'm good.
Some trees can actually grow inside of your lungs. In Russia, doctors performed surgery on a man named Artyom Sidorkin, suspecting that he had a cancerous tumor in his lungs. Instead of a tumor, though, they found a 5-centimeter fir tree branch inside of his lung. Doctors believe that Sidorkin accidentally swallowed a fir tree bud, which later grew into a branch. The probability of dying on your birthday is higher than any other day. There is actually a 14% chance of dying on your birthday than any other day. This is a shocking phenomenon called the birthday effect, which may be due to extra stress, drinking more, or people engaging in risky behaviors on their birthdays. A devil's chair exists in many cemeteries. In various cemeteries around the world, there are stone chairs called devil's chairs. These chairs were often used by mourners to sit and grieve, but legends and superstitions have given them a sinister reputation. Some stories claim that if you sit in one at midnight, the devil himself will appear. You are more likely to be bitten by someone in New York City than you are to be bitten by a shark. There could be someone secretly living in your wall or attic without you even knowing it. It's called frogging, and people say that it's becoming more and more common. So if you hear strange noises, notice things missing or moved, or your box of Frosted Flakes cereal is all of a sudden empty, there could be a frogger living in your home.
Check for froggers, bro.
You'll be glad you weren't around for. Part 1. The brazen bull execution was a method used in ancient Greece where a flame at the bottom roasted you to death, and the head of the bull was designed in such a way that your screams would be filtered and contorted into the sounds of a real bull. On pirate ships, workers who refused to follow orders would be hung by their nails. Another method used by pirates was called keel hauling, in which the men were dragged onto the ship until they died. And if this wasn't bad enough, the ship's hull was covered in barnacles so the man would be cut up as he drowned. Scaphism was an ancient Persian torture technique where criminals were stripped naked, tied to a boat, and then force-fed honey and milk until they got diarrhea, were covered in more honey, and set adrift in the ocean. This would then attract insects that would slowly but surely eat the men to death.
Dumbest ways people have died.
That's bad.
In 1880, the Queen of Thailand's boat capsized on the way to her palace, but despite many witnesses, nobody dared to save the drowning queen and her daughter. This was because touching the queen under any circumstances was a crime punishable by death. Bobby Leach was a world-renowned daredevil who became the second person to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel. A few years later, he died from a vicious infection after slipping on an orange peel. In 1996, a man named Michael Paul was on his way home from church when he decided to crack his neck just like any other time. But a few afterwards, he suddenly started sweating profusely and then went pale. By the time Michael was brought to a hospital, he had already slipped into a coma and died after 12 days of being on life support. An autopsy later revealed that the neck crack must have damaged one of the main arteries to his brain and resulted in a fatal stroke.
The man who took this 22-year-old's life while she went on a jog was finally sentenced. Lakin Riley went on a jog on the morning of February 22nd, 2024, when suddenly her friends noticed that her location was stuck on the same spot. Lakin was a nursing student at the University of Georgia, and she had a specific route that she ran on campus that her friends knew about. But while on her jog, little did she know that this man was lurking around campus looking for his first victim. Jose Ibarra woke up very early, dressed in all black, and went to campus to try to find a woman to R. He was even seen on surveillance walking around campus from 6 a.m. until 9 a.m. before he spotted Lakin. When he saw Lakin, it was said that he tried to take her clothes off and essay her, but she fought back, and that's why he took her life. While this was going on, Lakin's roommates noticed that her location was stuck on a certain spot, so they went out to look for her. Unfortunately, they weren't able to find her, but they called police, and then they located Lakin a few hours later. Beautiful Lakin passed away from blunt force trauma and asphyxiation. However, Lakin was able to put up a fight, and they found his DNA under her fingernails. This monster was charged, and as of today, he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
I traveled halfway
Always
around
be
the world
aware,
looking for the
man.
baby elephant. Everybody talking Mudang. Let me tell you about Jun. Jun is a registered threat to human welfare and the cutest thing I've ever had to run away from. This was in the Elephant Nature Park in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Home to elephants rescued and rehabilitated from places like elephant riding camps, logging companies, etc. Including 9-month-old wrecking ball on 4 legs, baby Jun. Jun be wanting to play. You got to tell her no, but she don't listen. You think I'm kidding, but imagine an 1,800-pound toddler trying to wrestle you without realizing you're basically a glass build to them. Don't tell me she didn't know what she was doing, because she kept acting cute in my face, only to try to bum rush me from behind. She also ate my poncho. Like right off my chest, to be fair. Wearing green around multiple plus-size lawnmowers was a choice. And the crazy thing is, I'll let her do it again. She wasn't the only one I met. There were others, like this young lady, Gumpung. And when I say young, I'm talking 51 trips around the sun. Basically, this place is a retirement home for elephants that have been exploited by people. It's gotta be the most ethical elephant sanctuary on earth, because everything's on their time. Trying to go for a walk, but an elephant says snack time, then it's snack time. No further discussion. And if you get caught in the rain because an elephant chooses self-care, you're just gonna have to meditate on that. So yeah, I love this place. I love everything they stand for. Now here's the sad part. They actually flooded, like the worst one in a while for a place that's used to it. And yeah, elephants can swim, but a lot of them are disabled and some of them are blind. So yeah, it's been a struggle. And I'm sorry to kill the vibe, but 2 of them didn't make it. Alright, so the real reason for this, they need help. There's an emergency flood relief for the sanctuary and they really need donations. So I'm gonna put it here and I'm gonna put it there. I'm not being paid for this. They didn't ask me to do this, no sponsor, nothing. Just they've helped a lot in the world and right now they need that help back. So the more you know.
Forbidden places that you can never visit. Number 1, Area 51 is a highly classified US Air Force facility that has been associated with UFOs, strange government cover-ups, and potentially testing alien technology. Although no one knows for sure what exactly goes on here, what we do know is that the facility itself is actually quite small. But the restricted area in total is about 90,000 acres of land. Next, Banga Fort is said to be the most haunted place in India. According to legend, there was a beautiful princess named Ratnavati and she lived in this fort. Many men wanted her hand in marriage, one of whom was a black magician named Singya. The princess, however, rejected Singya and he laid a curse on the fort which haunts it till this day. There have been numerous stories of people who entered the fort at night and were never seen again. As a result, people have been banned from entering the fort at night. Finally, the Bohemian Grove. The Bohemian Grove is said to be a secret group of very powerful people. It's alleged that many presidents and business leaders are part of this group. Every year they meet up in the woods and perform strange rituals, such as setting fire to a big owl statue. No one else is allowed to go in or take any photos. But a filmmaker named Ron Johnson once snuck a camera inside. and he presumably caught the world's most powerful men doing all of these strange things. Fourth more.
These
Caught
are
him
the
in
creepiest
4K.
unsolved photo mysteries. The Baltic Sea anomaly is known for being one of the most famous underwater mysteries on Earth. This sonar image from 2011 shows a large structure located at the bottom of the ocean. And if you're a Star Wars fan, it may look a little familiar to you. Many people believe that it could be a sunken UFO, or an ancient man-made structure that was lost to history. That, or Han Solo decided to move there and live his life in peace. Next, in 2016, a woman named Linda sent Belfast Live a disturbing photo that was taken from the year 1990. The photo shows a group of women in a factory with their arms crossed. One of these women was Linda's grandmother, Ellen Donnelly, and if you look closely at her shoulder, you can see a disembodied hand hovering over her. The photo quickly spread through the media, even making it to Snopes where they were unable to debunk it. So always look over your shoulder. And finally, many people believe that the Madonna, or the White Lady, was caught on camera back in 1991 at the Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. On this night, Judy Huff Fells decided to take a stroll in one of the most haunted cemeteries in America, along with the local Ghost Research Society, when they felt an odd presence nearby. And when she took out her infrared camera and snapped a photo, she could see a woman sitting on a stone. And this is why you shouldn't wander around a cemetery at night.
I won't be.
I knew this day was coming, I just didn't know when. Let's talk about parrot tongues. Awful, isn't it? You know, if you unfollowed me, I wouldn't even blame you. It's on the tip of my tongue. What is a xenomorph? Satan's back scratcher? A plumbus? My eyes will never get over yourself, man. Human arrogance is the only reason you think this is weird. You got hands, 2 of them actually, I hope. Well, some don't. You know, some like the lorikeet, nature had to get creative. Green is not a creative color. So lorikeets feed on nectar from flowers. Pretty hard to do that without fingers, so nature went ahead and put the fingers on their tongue, which helps them grab nectar, pollen, seeds, grain, and most importantly for analytics, your attention. Also, most parrots have a bone running through their tongue, which makes them even more of a forbidden finger that can grab and manipulate objects. Pause. Do I need to say pause? It's a parrot. It's also why parrots are the only animals that can mimic human speech and not have to pay taxes. What's up? I meant one of the only. Alright, my bad. You know, everyone's freaking out over the tongue. If you think that's bad, just scroll. Scroll hard, scroll now. 3, 2, this is choanal papillae. It helps them with eating. It's actually a sign of a healthy bird, and it is the worst. Moral of this video, dinosaurs really had the wildest rebrand of all time. The more you wish you didn't know.
I never knew a parrot's tongue was like that. Learn new things every day, bro, watching these videos with you guys. So they have their fingers on their tongues. Interesting.
Beauty products used to look like torture devices. They used to use these to shield their skin from the sun before sunscreen was invented. These 1921 masks were meant to get rid of wrinkles. And this mask was meant to give you a rosy complexion. Or my favorite, the warming mask for your face and skin. Terrifying.
This is all of the celebrity news today, but it's going to be simplified in 60 seconds. Ariana Grande is now paying Dalton Gomez $1.2 million in a divorce settlement. The new Travis Scott tour tickets are reselling as low as $7 because literally nobody is buying them. Dwayne Johnson, obviously The Rock, just addressed the Maui Fund backlash and said he could have done better. A bunch of fans are now thinking that Drake was shading Rihanna in the new song Fear of Heights. I haven't heard it, so I don't know. Jaden Smith just disclosed that she and Will Smith have been separated for years. Elon Musk just saved Amber Heard's role in the upcoming Aquaman 2 movie. We already know the drama on this. It's Cardi B's birthday, so a happy birthday. IShowSpeed was just officially unbanned from Twitch. Bad Bunny will be releasing his new album this Friday for anybody that listens. Taylor Swift is now planning on making a surprise appearance at the Eras Tour film premiere. So if you haven't heard already, Taylor Swift movie The Tour is coming out soon. I post these daily news roundups every single day so you guys can get the news without having to watch it. So make sure you add me on the side of your screen so you can come back to me tomorrow. Also, I want to know which one of these was your favorite and which ones you actually care about. And go watch my other videos.
Those played out.
Girl that vanished into thin air. Her name is Yuki Onishi. On April 29th of 2005, 5-year-old Yuki was out celebrating Greenery Day with her mother. It's a national holiday in Japan, and what they do is they go out, they celebrate nature, and they collect bamboo shoots. So Yuki, her mom, and 60 other people were out doing this. Yuki was so excited that she found her first bamboo shoot, she showed her mother, and then she ran off to find more. That's when she disappeared and was never seen from again. When they realized that she was nowhere to be found, they actually brought in search dogs and the police. This is where it gets really strange. The dogs followed her scent to the middle of the forest and then just stopped. The scent stopped in the middle of the forest as if she had just disappeared into thin air from that spot. To this day, she has never been found and no one knows what happened. If you want to hear some theories, come back for part 2.
What happened? She just disappeared. That was a high quality edit. Or with AI mixed in it too. My eyes, bro, like I said, I can start to freaking point them out, man. I think I'm at expert level. What level y'all at?
Hey bro, you know what's always fascinated me? The fact that if you're pretty and talented, you can get away with anything. Like y'all remember when Ariana dated this dude? People were like, no, hold up. Ain't bro married Ariana? Ariana said, what's the problem? They said, well, we're not gonna stand for this. Ariana said, well then do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, girl could sing though. And there it was. I think there was more to the story, but that's not the point. The point is, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie got away with this times 10 back in the day. Y'all remember this? See, back in the day, Brad Pitt was dating this girl named Jennifer Aniston. And this was a huge deal because celebrities back then were like massive compared to how they are now. He was like the king of movies. She was like the queen of TV. But then he started doing this movie called Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They said, damn, that's not Jennifer. They said, no, bro, it's just a movie. That's Angelina Jolie. Well, they're kind of close though. The director said, that's because they're really good actors. They be getting locked in. I ain't even asked her to do this, and she started doing it. They said, well, what about this? The director said, that wasn't in the script. So rumors start flying around, but people ignore them because Brad was with Jennifer for like 7 years. Jennifer goes, look, my life is perfect. We think about having kids, like everything good. Brad goes, Jennifer, can we talk over here for a second? They come back. Jennifer goes, we getting a divorce. Now, they came out though and they said it was mutual, they both wanted it and all that. And well, a few months later, Jennifer comes out and says, yo, that's kind of weird. So they interview Angelina Jolie. The interviewer goes, damn. Angelina goes, appreciate you. What you need though, Shawty? The interviewer goes, how'd you like shooting Mr. and Mrs. Smith? She said, ooh, Lord, man, I could not wait to go to work. I couldn't wait to go. The interviewer goes, let me stop you right there. I think we got everything. At this point, people will still say, no, y'all, it's just the movie that they shot together. They came out and said, nah, we together. So they interviewed Jennifer. They go, girl, I'm so sorry. She goes, it's not a problem. We got a divorce. He can do whatever he wants. I said, damn, you must not have heard. She said, heard what? Somebody said, she ain't heard. She said, heard what? They said, Angelina did another interview. And here's where it starts to get wicked. See, Angelina did another interview where she said, yo, I love being single. At one point, I was seeing 2 dudes at the same time. She said, one of my little side pieces I met 3 years ago. We had dinner. She said, 3 years ago, listen closely, Angelina, was married. So I told him I don't want to do nothing. The interviewer said, now that's decent. She said, yeah, so anyway, I called him 3 years later and I said, hey bro, you want to be my lover? The interviewer said, I don't see nothing wrong with that girl. She said, yeah. Well, then we had to discuss how we was going to do it because we didn't want to hurt anybody. I always fall in love when I do a movie. Everybody started connecting the dots. They said, Mr. and Mr. Smith, you talking about Brad Pitt? Jennifer straight up comes out and says, what? Nah, that's not it. Everybody said, that's not it. Y'all tripping. And everybody watched the movie. They said, man, they're pretty good though. Everybody started saying stuff like that. And let's be real, they probably acted so hard that they just fell in love. Everyone's like, yeah, that makes sense. Brad comes out and says, yeah, and really though, my last marriage was boring. Everybody said, what? I said, no, I didn't mean it like that. Shout out to Jennifer. Now, to be fair, Brad Pitt was talking about an art piece when he said this, and he's really interesting when it comes to art. Jennifer Aniston puts it perfectly. She said, Brad Pitt would never say that to hurt me. He just has a sensitivity chip missing. Which kind of reminds me of how Kanye West justified many things that hurt his marriage because they were art. Anyway, that's really it. Jennifer lived happily ever after. Brad and Angelina lived happily ever after. Wait, they got a divorce actually, but I mean, I think they're happy.
If ghosts are not real, then how do you explain this?
Those are dogs, bro.
Part 1.
Okay.
Nestle, the chocolatier of horror. The Willy Wonka of the real world. Most people know Nestle for producing candies like Kit Kat and the Crunch Bar, but their history, unlike the products they sell, is anything but sweet. In the 1970s, Nestle began an aggressive marketing campaign in several underdeveloped countries in an attempt to promote their baby formula and increase profits. The problem was, their marketing tactics were completely unethical. They hired fake nurses and were handing out free samples in hospitals, all the while trying to convince local mothers that their formula was healthier than the free and natural breast milk they already had. And it worked. Mothers began using the formula. And then, when their milk dried up from a lack of use, they had no choice but to use the formula. A formula that, when mixed with the unclean drinking waters these communities had available to them, would become nothing short of deadly. At its peak, their formula is estimated to have caused more than 200,000 infants a year to lose their lives, and more than 10 million to date. The incident caused massive protests, and you might be thinking, surely since they still exist, they must have learned their lesson and changed their ways, right? Well, I'm afraid the answer is no. No, they did not. Comment if you want me to continue this series, and if this has changed your perspective towards Nestle, and follow for more.
Let's talk about this.
Definitely changed my perspective.
A TikToker named Samuel said he was walking through a parking lot when a random man suddenly called his name. Whoever made the packaging for bacon needs to be fired. Cause why is there no like Ziploc or anything on these packages? Who designed it? When I find you, I'm going to steal your dog. I'm gonna give you the worst life you can ever have. I hate you. He looked at the guy and got closer to see if he knew him. But he had no idea who he was. And he wondered, how did the guy even know his name? That's when things started to turn weird. The man asked him for $1 and said he knew that he had one on him right now. I don't know how he knew that, but I would have told him to mind your business. Stop pocket watching. Hey, I got a question. Do y'all like chocolate milk or strawberry milk? Comment down below. Samuel said at this point his heart was beating out of his chest. He told the man, yeah, I have $1. You can have it. The man then snatched the dollar out of his hand and asked him if he wanted to see something. The man lifted up the back of his shirt, showed Samuel his tail. He then got on all fours, like an animal, you know, a dog, a lizard, and crawled away. Now look, man, I know this all sounds crazy, right? But as soon as Samuel had that interaction, he went straight to his car, recorded a TikTok video, uploaded the TikTok video.
Okay, bro, so the weirdest thing just happened to me.
Try this baby right here.
No, that's a good BLT.
I checked his page, and he hasn't posted since. That was his last video. If somebody knows Samuel, let me know if he's still alive, because that was his last video posted, and that was in 2022.
Damn. What do you guys think about the Skinwalker
While the
story?
world is focusing on Florida, not many people know that the Sahara Desert is flooding right now. And the pictures are insane. After 6 consecutive years of drought, the Moroccan Sahara was hit with what meteorologists called an extra-tropical storm. And it brought an amount of rain that the region hasn't seen in up to 50 years. And here's the crazy part. This flooding may actually change the course of the region's weather for months and years to come. That's because the air will now retain more moisture, which causes more evaporation and draws in more storms. NASA satellites show water rushing in to fill the famous Lake Erie, which had been dry for almost 50 years. This is the scare.
That's kind of scary, man, to see how our planet's reacting, bro. It's called the Sahara Desert for a reason, man. And it's flooded now, bro. That's proof right there that we need, bro. That our planet is changing. We gotta do better, man.
Scariest thing that ever happened to America.
Okay, we all know that America had a lot of scary things happen to it. But what I'm about to tell you has to be the scariest thing ever. On August 29th, 1968, every single TV in America shut down. And a demonic whispering was coming from every single TV in America. Many people believed it was the devil trying to get across some sort of message, but nobody really understood it. This lasted for about 25 seconds, and then all the TVs came back on. To this day, nobody knows what caused it or why it happened, but every single person believed it was the works of the devil.
Could that have just been a glitch in the system? Or something else, man. Eerie spirit trying to, like I said, get a message across. That's obviously an edit right there.
Times when companies dissed others, part 3.
Okay.
In 2001, Coca-Cola announced they sold 4 more times than Pepsi. So Pepsi, being salty, decided to create this whole ad of a boy going to a vending machine, getting 2 Cokes from the vending machine, just so he can stand on the cans and get a Pepsi. They are honestly ruthless for this. Next, in 2014, Mercedes made a commercial showing how a chicken can keep their head still while their bodies move, saying Mercedes can do the same thing with their car stability. However, the car company Jaguar saw this and decided to make almost the exact same commercial.
Word for word, bar for bar, bro.
But at the end, a jaguar straight up destroys the chicken. That's cruel.
Scary facts you'll think about at night. Horned lizards squirt blood from their eyes. The Devil's Bible is a real book. If the sun exploded, you would not know about it for 8 minutes. 20% of children report hearing voices.
There is something sinister that's occurred in the heart of Caddo Lake. An 8-year-old girl has completely vanished in or near the lake, which of course has left her family and loved ones completely devastated. This place is nestled within a remote and desolate swamp. Caddo Lake is shrouded in mystery. It's dark trees, murky waters, and there are countless hidden spots that would make it perfect for somebody to disappear. As the search for Anna continues, there has been a startling discovery. There are secrets buried deep within this eerie lake, far more than I think anybody could have imagined. Now, this chilling premise is the basis for the latest suspense and mystery film, produced by M. Night Shyamalan, premiering on Max Thursday, October 10th. Don't miss the stars Dylan O'Brien and Eliza Scanlon as they unravel the terrifying secrets hidden beneath the surface, only on Max.
This is how
Should I check that out?
actually are. Firstly, less than 1% of people can swallow 5 times on a single breath. So hold your breath and just swallow your saliva 5 times. It is very difficult to do. I can do it, but my siblings can't. So 20% of people have a gap in their teeth. I had a really bad tooth gap back in the day, so if anyone makes fun of you for having a tooth gap, just know you are more rare than them. If you're a naturally blonde individual, man or woman, you're actually quite rare in comparison to the rest of the world, because only 2% of people are naturally blonde, so pretty cool. Here are some new animals that were discovered in 2022. Only 42% of the earth has been discovered, so it's no surprise that new animals keep spawning. So let's see. The first known fox dog has just been discovered in Brazil after being hit by a car. I beg your pardon, but
what?
It did survive. That is one gangster ass dog. I would definitely adopt this creature. If it doesn't eat cats, because I don't want Ash getting clapped. Speaking of cats, in Australia, they found a new type of cat shark. What is a cat shark? And they called it a demon cat shark because apparently it looks like a demon. Yeah, I kind of see it. I don't know what that is, but staying far away from that. And lastly, a new flying cockroach was discovered in the Philippines. And apparently it's so fast that you can't even catch it.
Whoa. You still freaking learning new animals up to this year, bro? Makes you think, man, what else have we discovered? Earth is a big place, especially under the sea. We don't know what's lurking in there.
Money facts that will blow your mind. Content creators on OnlyFans made more money than all of the NBA players combined. Corinna Kopp has made more in 3 years than Klay Thompson has in his recent 3-year NBA contract. If you've been subscribed to Netflix since 2007, you've paid them almost $2,000. If you had instead invested that $2,000 into Netflix back then, you would have over $350,000 today. Paul Walker secretly bought a $9,000 engagement ring for an Iraq veteran that he overheard in a jewelry store telling his soon-to-be wife that he wasn't going to be able to afford it. Disney spends $50 million a year on fireworks. That's over $130,000 a night. Amazon will lose over $1 billion a year if it went 1 second slower. These are the average retirement savings in the United States by age group. The average for under 35 is $50,000. Average by the time you're 65 is over $600,000. The New York Stock Exchange is owned by a company named Intercontinental Exchange, which has its stock listed on the New York Stock Exchange.
This is why you should.
I'm sorry, it's just that freaking OnlyFans versus NBA salaries, man, it's getting to me, bro. That many people are subbing up to OnlyFans where they're making more than NBA players. Damn, that's a shame, bro. I would even think something like that's possible, man. They making meals, bro, a month? Whew. What does the world come to, Seekers?
To be scared of Ouija boards. A former Reddit user said that he used a Ouija board with results and let something into his home. He said that he has also been physically assaulted by this entity. He said that it started out with a feeling that he was being watched. Doors closing and footsteps on the hardwood floor when he was home alone. All of this slowly progressed into being kept awake by something shaking the bed and pulling off the covers. He said that sometimes he even heard whispers of his name. The board would disappear for days on end and then show up in places that he never even put it. He became obsessed with it. Things got even worse though. He said that he began to see a black mass in the corner of the room and the silhouette of a man watching him from the doorway. One night, the paranormal activity escalated into a full-blown attack. He said that he had his hair pulled, fingers pricked, and that he was choked while being held down in bed. During the attack, he claims that this thing whispered into his ear in what could have only been Latin. After this event, he finally decided to have his house blessed, and fortunately, this entity hasn't shown back up. He said that he will never again play with one of those boards.
These are the top 5
I
most
never
disturbing
do.
entities from the Home Safety Hotline DLC. At number 5, we have the False Caroler. These are basically big humanoid creatures with feathers. They approach your front door after dark and start this weird, twisted singing. They do this so they can lure you out, take you away, and feed you to their young. At number 4, we have Lucy. If it's hailing outside, watch out because Lucy can slip into your home. Once inside, she tries to look for humans and pets to steal their warmth. At number 3, we have the Hunt. This is not a snowstorm, it's fungus. What looks like snow here is actually spores. And those spores turn people into whites, basically coughing zombies that die after 48 hours. At number 2 we have Hans. Hans is a cloth creature that occupies homes. And once it does, it changes the personalities of the people that live there, making them more hazardous and wild. And at number 1 is Perchta. If you have a messy home, there's a chance that Perchta could come visit. And if she finds you there, she literally turns you into a scarecrow, killing you instantly.
3 disturbing facts about your favorite cartoons. Number 3. Peter Pan is actually the angel of death. He would take kids to Neverland, which represented the afterlife. That's why none of the kids there get older, because they're already dead. Number 2. In Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robin has severe schizophrenia, and all the other characters represent his mental disorder. Tigger, ADHD, Eeyore, depression, Piglet, anxiety. Bloody sad. And number 1, Pokemon was never real. In episode 1, Ash Ketchum balls off his bike and lands directly on his head, which then puts him into a coma. And it's led to believe that his entire journey after that is all in his head. Day officially ruined. Cheers, legends.
I thought he had to catch them all though, bro. What the
weirdest
heck?
facts about Australia you didn't know. Kangaroos have 3 vaginas. Next, Australia has the biggest cattle farm in the world. And it is bigger than the whole country of Israel in size. Moving on, there's around 10,000 beaches in Australia, but less than 1,000 of them can be visited at any time. And you know, around 80% of all plants and animals are unique to Australia, meaning you can find them anywhere else in the world.
Wow. I need to go to Australia, bro. That's on the bucket list, man. But I heard they got some big spiders. I know we don't do that, though. They're huge, man, over Australia. That's it.
The worst times to be alive in history, part 1. 536 AD. In 536 AD, most of the world went dark for up to 18 months, as a mysterious fog ruled over Europe, the Middle East, and a part of Asia. The fog blocked the sun during the day, causing temperatures to drop, crops to fail, and people to die. Follow for the next time.
You are going to want to keep the light on for these spooky facts from history. Anastasia and her sisters were actually very close to Rasputin. They were taught to treat him as their friend and confidant, and when they died, it was revealed that they each wore amulets with his picture inside. Mary I of England wanted a child so badly she actually had a phantom pregnancy. Her abdomen swelled, she stopped menstruating, and she even vomited in the mornings. But no child came. The most chilling part, Mary thought it was God punishing her for tolerating heretics. The incident may very well have led to her brutal punishments of non-Catholics, earning her the nickname Bloody Mary. In summer 1518 in Strasbourg, France, a lone woman started dancing in the streets. But soon enough, people joined her, and they couldn't stop. The so-called dancing plague lasted for months, was maybe even fatal, and its reasons are still unknown today. In Brazil one year, a 2-year-old boy died from pneumonia. The family was shocked when he sat upright at the funeral and asked for a glass of water. Then suddenly, he collapsed again, leaving the coroner to proclaim him dead once more.
What? Twice, man? He woke up, asked for some water, and then gone again? That is chilling, bro.
Spooky effects that will keep you up at night. There's over 100 known serial killers that haven't been caught. The world's largest pyramid is not in Egypt, but in Mexico. 12% of people dream without any color imagery. The human body contains enough fat to make 7 bars of soap.
Not the scariest thing in the ocean. Close, but not the scariest thing in the ocean. Not even the Oreo equalizer. Nah, the last animal I would want to see in the ocean. Bro, let me tell you about this squid. Now, at 5 feet, 100 pounds, a Humboldt ain't even that big. Now, what makes this satanic cephalopod such a menace is they can hunt in packs of not tens, not hundreds, but up to and over 1,000. Yeah, that's 3 zeros like a Tony Snell stat line. They're called the Red Devil because they can rapidly flash the color red. They use these flashes to communicate. It's like Morse code, but for crippling calamari. We don't know exactly how it works, but it's believed if a squid grabs something and suddenly starts pulsing red, it could be telling every squid in the area that it's free eats out here. By the way, most deep sea animals can't even see the color red. They really color coordinate with the worst side of the spectrum. Just imagine getting hunted by that. Diablo Rojo has a beak that can slice flesh, apparently crack bone, and we know they'll actively bring that smoke to humans. There's more than a couple stories of divers getting jumped by squid and nearly getting pulled into the abyss. There's also reports of them attempting to rip the masks off divers. Like, too many times for it to just be a coincidence. And see, the thing is, an orca's never offed a person in the wild, and a shark biting you is like me biting a wing and tasting cauliflower. It's an unfortunate occurrence, except the wing can't scream. There's no doubt in my mind a pack of predatory squid would off a person. They're not even safe from themselves. They are highly cannibalistic. Like, it's a legit part of their diet. It's a different type of friendly fire. If they see a sick or injured member of their own shoal, they will eat it alive. Fun fact, if you're fishing and catch a Humboldt, you really catch 4. The one you got and the 3 others tearing it apart while you pull it up. They've also been known to destroy camera equipment and gear because aggression and violence is how they respond to the things they don't understand. Worst part is, you can get jumped by a squid, escape, and if you surface too fast, you can still end up part of the past. The ocean's so unserious. The more you know.
Blood-curdling facts that you
Stay
wish
away
you
from
never
squid.
knew. Part 21. This photo shows an 8-month-old Xiao Bao who was lucky to be alive because his mother stabbed him 90 times after he bit her while she was breastfeeding him. The world's scariest haunted house, McCamey Manor, requires you to sign a 40-page waiver and undergo a physical and mental evaluation. If you manage to make it through the house, you could win $20,000. But to this day, no one has ever made it through. Roman Emperor Nero had a boy castrated, dressed him up as a bride, and married him, all because the boy looked similar to his previous dead wife. A 46-year-old man found and attacked a 13-year-old boy because the kid was killing him too many times in a game of Call of Duty.
How the hell did he even track him down? I'm telling you, bro, you gotta be careful even on the games nowadays, bro. People take things too seriously. They will hunt you down.
Scary videos from China. In the country, there are many secret prisons known as black jails. One day, a journalist was given the address of one of these, and this is what she found. The woman asks the reporter if she's here to save her, but the guards quickly lock the door. The woman in the video had been taken here off the record. This video shows a man on death row saying his final goodbyes. The man's name is Li Shiyan. He begs his mother not to cry. Li also bows down as a sign of respect, before being led away to meet his fate. This is a forgotten underground village. It's located in Gansu province. The people here have no food, water, or electricity. Some work in dangerous conditions in the local mine, earning just 30 cents per day. The people are very poor and neglected.
What makes Art the Clown so
30
terrifying is
cents?
that even he doesn't know how powerful
Nah.
he is. When the first Terrifier came out, Art was clearly just your average psychopath who likes to dress up as a clown. But when Terrifier 2 came out, that's when everything changed. Not only for, the plot or the world building, but specifically for Art. Director Damon Leone admitted in an interview that when Art came back to life in the beginning of the second movie, even he was surprised, which sets an entirely different tone for the movie. When the little girl came out of nowhere, when he kind of opened up a gate to hell, instead of being scared, the guy was laughing. Director Damon Leone admitted that he knows how this whole Terrifier saga is going to end, and everything was truly set in motion in Terrifier 2, which is when Leone really knew what he wanted to do with the character Art the Clown. Because every appearance of the clown prior to that wasn't necessarily half-baked, but even Leone admits that Art the Clown didn't necessarily come at him all at once, and it took him a while to truly figure out who that character was. However, with that said, I don't think we know exactly what Art the Clown is truly capable of. Admittedly, I have yet to see Terrifier 3, but from what I have seen online, this is far from the last time we will get to see this dude on screen. And given you know how Terrifier 2 ends, I imagine Art's true ending for this franchise is going to be one of the most historical events in horror movie history. God, I love these movies.
People who went missing and were found alive years later. In 2011, 2 fishermen from Kiribati were lost at sea for 33 days before they landed on the Marshall Islands. And when they arrived, locals took them to meet the only person on the island who spoke their language. Well, the fishermen then discovered that the only person who spoke the language was one of the fishermen's uncles who went missing 50 years earlier, who also got lost at sea. He was thought to be dead, but it turned out the uncle was perfectly fine and had a whole new life. Next, in 1997, a family in China had their young son abducted outside their home. And when an official search couldn't find their son, the father started his own search. So for the next 2 decades, he would travel all over China on motorbikes with flags of his son and would hand out flyers everywhere. And 24 years after he spent all of his life savings, his son was finally found. Props to that father.
Friendly reminder, if you think the government won't, they absolutely
That's a
will.
blessing.
Remember that time the CIA tried to weaponize otters? It went a lot better than the dolphins, but that's only because the otters didn't off themselves. Basically, otters are a lot smarter than they get credit for. They're part of the class of animals that can use tools, and they might have one up on dolphins in that department. Add the fact that they're the only mammal that can take the ocean without blubber, can be trained by humans, and it's basically a brainy, beachside honey badger with all the audacity, but seasoned with pretty privilege. Someone in the CIA saw this aggressive water war weasel and said, give him a fedora, he can do a lot for you. Let's make otter agents. Which led to the Otter Dossier. Also, apparently whatever they were doing had something to do with Project MKUltra. If you think they won. Anyway, here's some stuff you can find in the dossier. They found otters can open zippers and climb ladders. Seemed a little too excited about them being able to carry things and throw objects with their mouth. Otters can chew through a zinc sheet. I don't know how they found that. At one point, they say they become devoted to humans, which can lead to their destruction. Whose destruction exactly? They made sure to mention that because they can dive up to 60 feet and can hold their breath longer than 5 minutes, they can enter and leave boats without being seen. There's also a do's and don'ts section, and at the very top of the list they say, never take food from an otter or suffer severe mauling. Somewhere the reason for that rule is sitting in a room with PTSD and missing fingers. There's also some cute stuff, like otters being ticklish and them using that to make them listen. There's also a blurb about taking care of babies, specifically their diarrhea. Once again, the cost of that knowledge was somebody's innocence. Anyway, it's pretty interesting. You should probably check it out on your own. But yeah, the CIA was definitely plotting something. And it involved weapons of...
Let's seek the truth.
The trial ended with 2 deadlocked juries, causing the boys to be retried, but during the second trial, the judge didn't allow the boys to use the sexual abuse as a defense. Both brothers were convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder, with both of them receiving life sentences and no possibility of parole. They then didn't see one another for 22 years. Until 2018, they were housed in the same unit, and when they met, they embraced and burst into tears. The child psychologist that works with the brothers claims that the boys are innocent and their father was in fact a monster. A cousin of the boys also states that he remembers Lyle telling him during his childhood that his father was doing things to him that no parent should ever do. Others believe, however, that the boys are simply using any excuse they can, given that they are actually held accountable for their crimes. But ultimately, it's up to you to decide the innocence of...
In 2018, a 51-year-old woman drove her car onto a Little League field. Attempting to stop the woman and keep the children safe, 68-year-old Douglas Parkhurst jumps in front of the car and tries to close the gate. He succeeded keeping everyone safe, but sadly died from his injuries on the way to the hospital. Carol Sharrow is arrested, and the story should end there. But it doesn't. On Halloween night in 1968, 4-year-old Carol Lee Ashby was trick-or-treating with her older sister. Tragically, 4-year-old Carol Lee was hit and killed by a drunk driver, and the case remained cold for 45 years, until 2013 when Douglas Parkhurst confessed to being her killer. After 45 years, the statute of limitations had run out, and Douglas faced no punishment. When interviewed in 2018, Carol Lee's older sister Darlene said, "It's like a complete circle now. He went out the same way he took my sister out."
Terrible crimes that were solved by pure coincidence. On April 28, 1997, Zephany Nurse was born, and she was placed in a nearby crib while her mother Celeste slept, but when Celeste awoke, her daughter was missing. Police searched the hospital, but nothing of note was found. In fact, no progress was made in the case for nearly 2 decades. However, when Celeste's next oldest daughter, Cassidy, started classes at a new school in 2014, she met Michelle Solomon. The girls quickly struck up a close friendship, and many people commented on the resemblance to one another. So much so that when Cassidy introduced Michelle to her mom Celeste, she instantly contacted the police. When Michelle's alleged parents couldn't provide proof of her birth, a DNA test was conducted and it was confirmed that Michelle was actually Zephany Nurse, Celeste's missing daughter. The kidnapper LaVonna Solomon was later convicted in the abduction case and sentenced to 10 years in prison.
You know how the things have to line up for you to go to school, I guess with your mom or sister? That's just the universe at play right there, man. Unfolding in front of our eyes.
This case's twist will shock you. On the evening of 2014, Sarah Sands had downed 2 bottles of wine, put on a hoodie, and left her apartment carrying a knife. She then walked to a 77-year-old man's house named Michael Plested and took his life. She then walked back to her house and gave herself up to the police. But why did she do it? Turns out that man's name wasn't Michael Plested. He had legally changed it through a secret loophole in the law, which allows you to do so when applying for a new passport, because he was actually on the SO list for messing with children. And it turns out he had lured her 3 sons into his apartment, 12-year-old Bradley and the 11-year-old twins Alfie and Reese, and essayed them. In court, Sarah claimed that she will never be able to take the nightmares that happen to her boys away from them when they're screaming at night. She got 7.5 years, and now that she's out, she fights the law, campaigning to stop other offenders from changing their name through that same loophole. Did you see the secret question I hid in this video?
A family in New Zealand found human remains inside of a storage locker they won through an auction. It's typical for storage units to be put up for auction if they have been unclaimed and unused for many, many, many years. This New Zealand family won a specific storage locker and they were emptying it out, found some suitcases. Upon realizing that the suitcases smelled terrible, they opened them up and found decomposing bodies. These bodies were later identified to be 2 children, one 5 years old and the other about 10 years old. While we don't know how long they were in the storage locker, it does seem like they had been there for a good amount of time. The only lead right now is police think that the children's mother is living in South Korea and she arrived there in 2018. Other than that, we don't really know much about this case yet.
Remember when Terrifier 2 made people pass out and throw up in theaters? Well, get ready because Terrifier 3 was just officially confirmed and it's going to be even bloodier. I have no idea how they're going to top the bedroom scene, but I'm excited to find out. Allegedly, the actors for Art the Clown and Sienna are both returning, so I feel like this means Terrifier 3 will be continuing the story from right after Terrifier 2. One of the producers said they'll have a bigger budget intended on giving filmmakers more creative freedom and let them be as wild as they can be. And all jokes aside, we're going for that Oscar this year. Can you imagine if Terrifier 3 wins an Oscar? I'll be updating you guys with anything I find out, so follow for more.
You know that ain't happening. That case had some twists and turns I was not expecting. Well, any of the secrets, were you guys expecting that?
Who was killed by her childhood best friend in 2016. At the time of her death, Sarah was living with her dad in Neptune City, New Jersey, and studying arts and media at their local community college. As many of her friends knew, she'd recently received a lot of money following her mom's passing. It was the middle of the night on December 2nd when Sarah's car was found abandoned on a nearby bridge with the engine still running. Dive teams searched the water thinking that she may have jumped, but ultimately they came up with nothing. Sarah's case was investigated as a missing persons investigation until January of 2017, when another student came forward and pointed authorities in the direction of her junior year prom date, 19-year-old Liam McAtanzy. The two had been friends for over 10 years. On January 31st, police set the student up with microphones and cameras and had him meet Liam in a local parking lot. There, he confessed to everything, explaining that he and his best friend Preston spent 6 months planning Sarah's murder. Yes, this is a photo of Sarah, Liam, and Preston together at their high school prom. The plan was for Liam to go to Sarah's house, get her drunk, and then take her for everything her mom had left her. On December 1st, he did exactly this and strangled Sarah for 30 minutes before hiding her body in the bushes outside of her house. Later that night, he came back with Preston, and the two drove her and her vehicle to the nearby bridge. There, they threw her off and then staged the scene to make. Liam and Preston thought Sarah had nearly $100,000, but they only walked away with $8,000. Liam has since been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and Preston to 18 years. Sarah's body has never been found, as it likely drifted off to sea within 24 hours.
The Florida Man, a national treasure of sorts, both a nightmare and a cause of intrigue for millions. Florida Man in facing attack believes he was half man, half dog. Florida Man arrested for throwing a gator into a Wendy's. Florida Man destroys nest full of wasps with his bare hands. Now, who is the Florida Man? I mean, you and I both know that it's multiple people doing insane things in the real-life GTA server that is Florida, but the legend still remains. One man doing things none of us could fathom. The Florida Man. It's become a fun game for people to look up the phrase Florida Man followed by their birthday to see what crazy things the Florida Man did that day. For me, I was born January 14th, and what comes up is kill him with kindness. Florida Man kills someone with a machete named Kindness. You never know what you could find. What is going on down there in Florida? And how has it gone on for this long? All the answers we may never have. But all of that is part of the mystery of
the Florida Man.
This daycare worker is why many Americans choose to not send their kids to daycare. Hi, my name is Ethan, and trigger warning, this is a dark case. In June of 2018, a 1-year-old in Jessica Cherry's care allegedly fell from a chair, hit her head, and suffered extensive bruising and skull fracture. Fast forward 2 years later, another 2-year-old was found deceased in Jessica's playpen in her home. Jessica immediately called 911, and the 2-year-old was transported to Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters and was pronounced deceased. The pathologist who performed the autopsy on the 2-year-old later declared that she was potentially smothered, and that is how she passed away. They also saw that the child had blunt force injuries as well. Jessica was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in August of 2022, and on March 17th of this year, she was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
That's 10? That sounds wrong.
A family in New Zealand found human remains inside of a storage locker they won through an auction. It's typical for storage units to be put up for auction if they have been unclaimed and unused for many, many, many years. This New Zealand family won a specific storage locker, and they were emptying it out, found some suitcases. Upon realizing that the suitcases smelled terrible, they opened them up and found decomposing bodies. These bodies were later identified to be 2 children, one 5 years old and the other about 10 years old. While we don't know how long they were in the storage locker, it does seem like they had been there for a good amount of time. The only lead right now is police think that the children's mother is living in South Korea, and she arrived there in 2018. Other than that, we don't really know much about this case yet.
Down for whatever. In the back of his mind is Coretta, and she knows.
So worried that she missed this one that she literally called the police to the house because she thought something was wrong. Her friend's name was Nicole, by the way, and she is a huge reason why this case even got solved. So Nicole's at the house talking to the police, and she explained how her car was still in the garage, the shoes that she wears every day were still there, and just as she was talking to them, Chris pulled up to his house. Now, Chris ran up and looked extremely worried at the time, and then shook the police officer's hands, and then went straight inside without making any eye contact with Nicole. Something real suspicious was going on. So anyway, the police officer took Chris into a closet to interrogate him. And Chris said this.
Nobody's hurt them, nobody's.
So of course the cop had to take all the information into account, and he was like, alright, cool, this is what Chris had to say about it. Let's go back to her. And because Nicole acted so quickly and was so on top of things, Chris couldn't dispose of any of Shannon's personal items. She noticed her purse was still there, and the medication she was supposed to take every day was still there as well. And then they contacted a neighbor who had security cameras out front of his house. And what he was able to find was shocking. The security cameras captured Chris Watts backing his pickup truck to the front of his house, and then moments later, pulling out bags and throwing them into the back of the pickup truck. And when you watch the footage, you realize Chris knows he was caught. Upon reasonable suspicion, Chris was later arrested, and it came out that Chris had murdered his wife and 2 children. 3 children if you count the child that his wife was pregnant with. He had taken them to oil canisters that were around where he worked at and disposed of the bodies. But right now, Chris Watts is in prison, rotting away, serving 5 life sentences. Sure, this was someone that didn't know this story.
That Chris Watts case, man, blows your mind every single time you hear it. He ate him? Where was he at?
She must have been out of her head.
Part 5. This is one of the most gruesome parts, so big trigger warning. Even if you can handle these type of topics, you might be very, very disturbed. Hi, I'm Julie and I talk about true crime, dark history, and all things spooky, so if you like that, please follow me. So after the freezing baby incident, the authorities came and raided the place again in 1985 and took away all 14 children, thank God. Of course, this didn't stop them from having babies, so every time that they had a new baby, the authorities would have to come in and take them away again. Once the children were all gone, things spiraled completely out of control. Many of the cult members tried to escape, but none were ever successful. One of the members that tried to escape was actually Rock's second wife, Giselle. It was actually Giselle's idea to leave the baby out in the cold, but despite that, really bad things happened to this woman on the commune. Rock found out that Giselle was trying to escape the commune and then threw a hunting knife at her, which landed in her thigh and created a 3-inch deep wound. Rock's response to this was to have a beer and then take a nap, and then hours later wanted to operate on her leg. It had been so long since her initial injury at this point that her leg began to clot and swell. Rock pressed on her wound until it opened back up again, and then he proceeded to pour boiling hot water in her wound repeatedly. And then he filled the wound up with salt and olive oil. Somehow Giselle survived this surgery. He also blowtorched one of his wife's stomach while she was pregnant. One of his favorite things to do was blowtorch people. He even blowtorched one of his wives on her back until the skin was bubbling up. A man named Claude who lived on the commune received horrific treatment as well. Rock poured boiling hot water on him, pulled out 11 of his teeth with a pair of pliers, broke each of his toes by hand, and then sliced his arm open with a piece of glass. He got one of his wives to break Claude's leg with a sledgehammer. Claude was ordered to walk around with an elastic band wrapped tightly around his testicles. He had to keep the elastic band on overnight, and then one of his testicles swelled up to the size of an orange. This caused irreparable damage. Then of course Rock decided to operate on him the next morning. He removed one of Claude's testicles and cauterized the wound with a hot iron. The next surgery Rock performed caused another death. This is the hardest one to hear. A woman named Solange started to complain of stomach pain. Rock, of course, concludes that the best thing to do is operate. He laid Solange on the table and punched her in the stomach. He then forced a tube into her rectum to perform an enema with molasses and olive oil. I don't know what his thing with olive oil is. I'm sorry guys, you're gonna have to come back for part 6.
Disturbing.
So now a neighbor in the brick building next door is stating that he got home at 1:30 and at 4 a.m. he heard a scream coming from the house where the 4 were slain in the Idaho murders. He thought that they were throwing a party, but now he realizes it probably was a scream for help. He didn't think anything of the scream and went back to sleep, but he did notice that a black SUV that he didn't recognize was parked in their driveway. I find it interesting that a whole building down the street heard a scream at the exact time that the murders were supposed to occur, but the roommates inside of the house said they heard nothing. What do you think? Do you think that's true? Do you think that they heard nothing? Do you think that it's interesting that a man down the street heard screams, but they didn't? Comment, let me know.
Somebody capping, somebody lying.
What is the scariest thing that could happen while camping? Well, this one guy who was camping in Florida had a horrifying encounter. And before we get into it, I have a podcast episode of 2 of the scariest camping stories I've ever heard if you're interested. So years ago, a guy and his friend were camping in Florida when they came upon this old man's campground. It was in disarray, so they kind of got a bad feeling from it and they turned to leave. But then the guy comes out of the campsite and is like, oh, hey, he wants to talk to them. He starts engaging them. He's giving them suggestions of where to go in the woods, but he's telling them where to go in steps, not in miles or yards. So he's like, oh, the waterfall is 300 steps from here. And one of the guys thinks that's weird because that's really not common in the area to describe where to go. A few months pass and they basically just forget about this interaction. But one day, one of the guys calls the other guy and is like, dude, you have to turn on the TV right now. And all over the news are pictures of this guy, the guy they saw, Gary Michael Hilton, who is a serial killer who preyed upon young women in national parks, kidnapping them and taking their lives. Some of the places he told the boys to go look at were places he had hid bodies. Both men were contacted by law enforcement and ended up giving very
connected by the same tube. 90% of serial killers choose their victims by sexual desire. Your organs move freely around your body. Crows used to follow armies to feed on dead bodies. Human sacrifice was a real thing in Aztec Mexico.
Whoa. Bombarded with information, man.
Scariest mythical creatures from around the world, Part 2. The Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is a legendary creature found in Pine Branch, South Jersey. It is known to look exactly like a giant flying goat, having an extremely long neck, massive wings, extremely short legs, and of course a tail as sharp as a sword. Don't forget to like and follow for our Part 3.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your childhood, Part 2. This little girl here is Judith Barcy. She played Ducky in Land Before Time. She also played Anne Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven. In 1988, she was shot in the head by her own father. He also did the same thing to her mother. After that, he doused the bodies in gasoline, then proceeded to set them. And that's how the story ends. Her gravestone says yup yup yup, which is a quote from her character in the Land Before Time movies.
The creepiest places in the world. Gate to Hell, Turkmenistan. It's been burning for past 40 years, and no one knows when it's going to stop.
Lake Natron, Tanzania.
Due to high levels of salt contents, everything that touches the lake turns to pure stone.
Mythical creature caught on camera. Unicorn.
Or these could be edits, high quality edits.
Fairy.
I'm gonna have to call cap on this one.
Dragon.
That's definitely a cat, bro. It's high quality, I give him that though. Imagine how the world would react if that was a real dragon.
Mermaid. Phoenix.
Is that bird on fire? Yeah, okay. Seen that before.
Rulers in History Part 2. Ivan IV, aka Ivan the Terrible, was Tsar of Russia between 1547 and 1548. Abuse as a child gave way to mental illness as an adult, and Ivan began torturing small animals. In 1544, at only 14, he seized control of Russia by feeding the head of the government to a pack of dogs. He then began massacring his own people and even killed his oldest son himself. He would apologize publicly for his cruel illegal actions and then immediately turn around and do something even worse. Prince Sado lived in Korea between 1735 and 1762. After being sick with measles at 17, he began acting violently, abusing his servants and attacking women. He began murdering on a whim and even began stalking his own sister, which was the point that the king had enough. To prevent the prince from spreading any more terror, the king had him locked in a rice chest where he spent 8 days until he eventually died.
Some of these those rulers, man. Like I said, lost in history, bro. I'm learning new things every single day watching the Two Guys Secrets. It goes to show you, man, how if you mess with somebody at a freaking young age, their childhood, it truly shapes the person they became. Look what happened.
Story about the children on the bus. One night a man was on a bus on his way home from work. He thought he was the only person on the bus until he heard children's voices coming from behind him. He was listening to their conversation and was very interested. The two young boys were talking about a ghost story. They were saying, and if you turn around, the ghost will snatch you away and carry you to the underworld. The man recognized the boy's voice. He often seen the kids on the same bus on his way home from work every day. They attended a school nearby. Then the other boy was saying, "That's easy then. All you have to do is make sure you don't turn around." "Yeah," said the first boy. "But the thing is, you can't help but turn around. The ghost will try all sorts of tricks to make you turn around." The man then realized they were getting close to their stop. However, it looked like they didn't notice. When the bus stopped, the kids were still talking. The man thought he should warn them that they're gonna miss their stop, so he turned around to tell them. The man was never seen again.
Turned around. They told him don't turn around. It's a story if he was listening to it. Creepy bus story, bro. Sounds legit to me.
I'm Gonna Ruin Your Childhood, Part 1. The original Wizard of Oz movie is actually considered to be cursed because of all the horrific things that happened during filming. The main character, Dorothy, who was played by Judy Garland, was actually drugged and molested during filming. She was given adrenaline shots so that she could stay up more than 48 hours at a time. And there are reports that she was sexually assaulted by the Munchkin actors and studio executives. The actress who played the Wicked Witch got horrifically burned on set. During the scene where the witch escapes Munchkinland in a plume of smoke, the pyrotechnic team set off the explosion a little too early. It caused the witch's broom, hat, and makeup to catch on fire. The medics had to rub alcohol all over the burns to remove the makeup, which was extremely painful. And the snow that you see in the movie was actually a lethal chemical called asbesto, which causes cancer.
This is the worst thing that ever happened at a concert. In 2003, the band Great White was performing live when pyrotechnics went off as planned. But within moments, everything took a horrifying turn. Flames erupted as the foam on the stage and walls caught fire, spreading faster than anyone could react. While the band managed to escape through the back exits, hundreds of audience members were left in chaos, desperately trying to find their way out. Thick smoke quickly filled the venue and people scrambled toward the front entrance, creating a wall of bodies as they clambered over each other in a desperate bid to survive. In the video of the incident, you can see people screaming and getting crushed to death. The situation spiraled as people became trapped, some crushed under the weight of others, and survivors described the scenes of half-burned victims being pulled out from the flames. Outside in the snow, survivors tried to help by rubbing snow onto the burned. But the devastation was immense. By the end, 100 people had tragically lost their lives, and over 200 were injured in one of the most heartbreaking concert disasters in history.
This skull was found inside the wall of a house in Illinois, and it turns out that it belonged to a woman that passed away more than 150 years ago. In 1978, James Gare was doing renovations on his home when he came across a skull behind the wall. He called police and they took the skull to further investigate. They knew it belonged to a woman, but could not identify who this person was until recently. In February 2024, with the help of genetic genealogy, they finally determined that the skull belonged to a 17-year-old woman named Esther Granger. Esther was born on October 6, 1848 in Indiana, and at 16 she got married, then pregnant, but passed away from complications after giving birth to her daughter in 1866. She was buried in a grave in Illinois, and her daughter was named after her. Now you're probably wondering, how in the world did Esther's skull randomly appear inside this man's wall in a completely different state? Well, even though investigators are not 100% certain, their theory is that Esther was a victim of grave robbing. Grave robbing is when someone digs up a grave and takes the body of a deceased person to often sell them to medical schools for research purposes. This was pretty common in that era since it was very profitable and there was a high demand for research and education. After searching for a family related to Esther, they found a man named Wayne, who's also a retired police officer in Portland, and he happens to be Esther's great-great-grandson.
This is a creepy story.
That's so disrespectful, man. People, they going in their graves, man, just for some money. And then, like she said, it was in that era, bro. It was like, it goes to show you, even back in the day, man, people were doing wild things in the world. Grave robbing.
Story about the stare. A girl was on the subway late at night when she noticed a woman staring at her intensely. The woman was sitting between two old men. The girl kept looking away, but the woman staring never broke eye contact. It started to freak the girl out. At the next stop, a tall man in a trench coat boarded. He sat down right next to the girl. The woman who was staring paid no attention to the man who just boarded and just kept staring at the girl. Now this really creeped out the girl. The two men that the woman was sitting between never once looked in her direction. The girl then pretended not to notice, but each time she looked, the woman was still staring at her. At the next stop, the man in the trench coat got up to leave when suddenly he grabbed the girl's arm and dragged her out of the subway. The doors shut and the subway took off. The girl then started screaming for help, but then the man said, "Calm down. I just saved your life. I didn't mean to scare you, but I had to get you off that subway." The woman that was staring at you was dead, and the two men beside her were holding her up.
Oh, so he was a lifesaver then. Good people in the world, man, watching out for you, looking out for you. She didn't pick up on that.
A family was recording their reunion having dinner when they accidentally captured something disturbing outside. Jesus Aguirre was with his family at Argentina's Matias Hotel enjoying a poolside dinner when he decided to film the moment. As the family's enjoying their dinner, little did they know something horrifying would be captured.
See that?
As he pans the camera across the table, he sees this eerie pale person just standing there in the dark woods. Now, this could be just another guest staying at the hotel, but after zooming in, things get weirder. The figure doesn't seem to have any facial features, just a black mouth opening as the man zooms in on it. Not wanting to find out who or what this could be, the family finished their dinner and rushed back to their room. Saguero mentions he has no idea if what he saw that night was even human.
Yo, what's up?
What was
Here's
that?
some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 45. Egyptian mummies would still be considered one of the rarest artifacts to find up to date, if medieval Europeans hadn't consumed a majority of the dead mummies' bodies, because they believed back then that if you consumed embalmed dead bodies, that it would actually heal your ailments. Please do not try this next one, but it is actually possible that you can convince somebody who has no history of mental illness in their family that they have a severe mental illness in roughly only a week. Please do not try to convince your brother that he has schizophrenia. That would not be a good idea, and it would not end up well. Throughout the filming of The Exorcist, you hear the possessed girl let out multiple demonic screams, but little did you know that those screams weren't humanly possible, and they were actually the sounds of squealing pigs who were being taken to a slaughterhouse. And last but certainly not least, it is said that people who practice the religion of Zoroastrianism actually leave dead bodies up in towers so that vultures can consume their remains. To us it may seem a little strange, but to them it's actually a sign of respect. But when I die, please don't put my body in a tower so I can be eaten by vultures. It's just not my thing.
Need.
their 15-year-old daughter because they claimed that it was safer than her doing it with someone else. Just a warning that this story is very disturbing, but it does need to be talked about. In March of this year, a 15-year-old girl had called police that her stepfather had been essaying her for the last year and a half. He also told them that her mother was aware of this and let it happen. Police interviewed John and Shamika Hayes, and they admitted to everything, and they claimed that they thought it was safer for them to do that to their daughter instead of her doing it with some random stranger. This all started when the girl was 14 years old. Her mother had found her Snapchat and saw that she was Snapchatting strangers, and she assumed that her daughter was trying to meet up with them. This part is disgusting, but her parents bought her toys to show her how to use them on herself and them. Police arrested and charged the parents, and they are currently being held at the Utah County Jail without bail. It was revealed that Shamika and John Hayes were a part of an LDS church, and it seemed like that church was trying to protect their image. The state of Utah recently passed a law that clergy are no longer required to report a crime of child essay if they know about it. So let's say someone goes to church to confess and they're talking to the clergy that they essay their child. That clergy does not have to report it. The church can also cover this up and control the media when these reports are given to authorities. These children are not being protected, and if they were to go to a church leader to tell them what was happening to them, they would basically tell them to forget about it and just forgive that person. If a child were to report to police that they were getting essayed by a church member, that specific church has laws to protect that person so their name doesn't get out there. I know that this case was probably very hard to listen to, but it's very important that this 15-year-old girl and many others get the justice that they deserve.
That was an insane case, man. All those freaking loopholes to protect them. That's wrong. I think that's the edit.
I think this could be the strangest disappearance I have ever heard. This 19-year-old Jason Jolkowski, and in 2001 he was living at home in Omaha, Nebraska with his family, very normal life. And it was a summer day, June 13th, where something very disturbing took place right off his street. Jason wasn't supposed to work this day, but he got called into work, and it was a place called Fazoli's. It's kind of just like a fast casual Italian place, but the problem was he didn't have his car that day. He had no transportation. This manager who made a couple of calls, and he arranged for one of the co-workers to go and pick up Jason at the nearby high school. For context, it's a very short walk from his house. It's quite literally only a few blocks. Problem was, Jason never showed. He had somehow completely vanished during this walk. He only could have gone so many ways. So one of the most logical was that he was going to take Bedford. It's a street with a lot of foot traffic, so people assumed that somebody would have seen him. An alternate option where maybe he took a couple of back roads to get to the high school, but again, what's known is that he never made it, and no one has ever found what happened to him, and nobody saw or heard what went down. Looking for more of a deep dive on this story, I'm probably going to cover it on The Sinister.
Terrifying facts you never knew. If your immune system ever found out that you have eyeballs, you would go blind. Which means right now your immune system has no clue that you can see. Because if it did, they would attack your eyeballs until you can no longer ever see. This is because your eyeballs have a protein in them called crystalline that doesn't exist anywhere else in your body. So if your immune system found out and checked them out, it would be like, something's wrong here. Studies show that most serial killers are born in November. Today's high school students have the same anxiety levels as insane asylum patients had in the 1950s. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, my anxiety might be up there too. There's a disease called fatal familial insomnia, where people suddenly one day lose their ability to fall asleep, which leads them to slowly go insane. They can't distinguish dreams from reality anymore and go into some type of paranoia. It becomes so severe that they eventually die. Those that make it to the final stage and don't die usually end up in a vegetative state, no longer conscious. And it can happen to any one of you. About 3,000 people go missing every year in the United States. The last execution by guillotine was in 1977. This was in France. And also that was the same year the first Star Wars movie came out. You are always 6 minutes away from death, but breathing resets the clock. In 2011, Anatoly Yakovlevich was arrested for having 12 dolls in his apartment. Only problem is, they weren't normal dolls. They were recently deceased little girls that had been dug up and dressed to be put on display. In 2012, a Burger King employee anonymously posted this to 4chan. It said, This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King. It only took 20 minutes for people to track down the branch that he worked at, and he was fired. You really never know what people are doing to your food. H.H. Holmes was a serial killer who built a torture hotel in the 19th century. He had secret rooms with gas chambers, trap doors, and stairs that led to nowhere. He loved to play with his victims' minds. It was almost like a real-life Saw movie. Joe Matheny was an infamous serial killer who not only cooked his victims to eat for himself, but also made them into burgers, using their remains. He then sold them to unsuspecting customers from a roadside food stand. We really never know what he is. I'm cooking all my food myself. Because why don't we eat over people's house? In 2021, a new homeowner was shocked to find a boarded up wall. When he ripped the boards off the wall, he discovered a hole. In that hole was a doll clutching a note. The note saying that she killed a family who lived there in the 1960s. Be honest, would you move out? In 1978, there was a pilot named Frederick Valentin. Him and his plane disappeared in Australia. His last communication was, Melbourne, that strange aircraft is hovering above me again. It is hovering and it is not an aircraft. This is a mugshot of William West and William West. Oh, and they're not related at all. But they were both sent to Leavenworth Prison at the exact same time in 1903. And after some confusion, the staff finally figured out they were two different people who had the exact same name and looked identical. This was said to be one of the main reasons why we now use fingerprints to identify somebody. There's biotech being developed as we speak that can make prisoners feel they are serving an 1,000-year sentence in a matter of 8 hours. That's horrifying. Imagine thinking you spent 1,000 years somewhere, and then when you wake up and snap out of it, you realize that it was only a couple hours. Do you know how crazy that is? Anyways, like this video if you want a part 2.
We got some information, man, at the end, bro. We gotta just keep feeding it to the seekers, man. We can take it. Especially, man, about to pop out the food, bro. It's making me want to make my own food, man. I don't even want to go out there, boy. Seekers, that's it, man, for this video for you guys today. If you guys made it with me to the end, you're true seekers, seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys comment down below. Hit that post notification bell. Hit that thumbs up button on this video. You guys are going to catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.